Hey everybody, I wanted to talk a little bit about my African butterfly fish tonight. We're looking at the end of my tank here. This is my 29-gallon miscellaneous tank. And I'm on the end here because that fish basically will just float like that all night long. It floats like a cork, and I wanted to get you a profile shot to start with. Then we're going to go back to the front of the tank where I can actually sit down and talk about the fish a little bit. But if you can see the filaments that come down off of the pectoral fins, those actually are part of the fin, but there's nothing in between them. They are actual filaments. The anal fin and the caudal fin do actually have material between the visible veins. So it is a very powerful swimmer. So now we're going to move around to the front of the tank for a moment. Bear with me. As you can see by its massive pectoral fins and proximity to the surface of the water, if you had an open top tank, you would not have a butterfly fish for very long. So suffice it to say that the closed top tank is an absolute must for this fish. The chief concern I would think anyone would have about this fish would be feeding it. Anything that's been captive bred or tank raised. Tank raised is a term used for caught very young and then basically grown out in a community tank or a holding tank. So generally when it's been tank raised, it has been conditioned to eat more regular food. I'm going to honestly just pan back a little bit. I know this is going to be about that African butterfly fish, but you can take a photo of it because that's all it's going to do the whole time we talk about it. So we may as well look at some of the other fish. When I first got this one, it was fairly small. He really would not eat anything except floating insects, and they had to be alive. I tried, freeze-dried things, and he would just basically ignore them. And I say he arbitrarily. I have no idea about the sex of the fish. So I was really frustrated. I finally talked to a friend of mine, a professional, and he told me not to give the fish a choice and don't let the fish train me. So I stopped feeding it live insects and I began just putting floating pellets in there that my angelfish would eat. And about 3 days later, I noticed that he was actually eating the pellets and even flake food. So that issue went away fairly quickly. I still try to give him live food. It is an insectivore. Primarily, so that's, it needs a good high level of protein and keratin and things that you would normally get in its diet of insects. So in the summer months I do tend to collect crickets and stuff like that from the yard and throw them in there. I only recommend doing that if you know where those crickets are coming from. In my yard, I know there's no pesticides or any other toxins that might contaminate my tank or injure my fish. So again, know what you're doing before you go feeding your fish wild caught stuff. So in this case, it's not really an issue. I do like to give him the live stuff. I just fed him earlier today. He eats krill and river shrimp fairly regularly. And basically at this point, his staple diet is just floating pellets. So he's become very easy to care for. But this is also all he does. I mean, he is really almost like a floating ornament. He will swim around. He gets quite boisterous when it's feeding time. He's a very aggressive feeder when he decides he's going to eat. And then he switches back off and turns back into a floating ornament in your tank. I don't say that in a bad way. I am very happy with this fish. I actually recommend this fish. I like it a lot. But I'm just telling you what you're going to get if you get this fish. If it swims around a lot, then it's not a happy fish. If it comes down off the surface, and if we actually took the top off the tank and look, you would actually see its back is out of the surface of the water. It floats that high in the water that it actually breaks the surface. And if it comes down off the surface like that, that means it's not a happy fish. This fish will generally stay on the surface of the water during a water change. If I'm in there really scrubbing and disturbing the tank, I will, he'll go down and hide in the leaves and things like that. But he basically sits just like that all the time. Again, not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it is what it is. If you get that fish, that's what you need to expect. All in all, I think it's a great fish. I probably wouldn't put it in a tank any smaller than maybe a 20 long would probably be okay. This is a 29, but a fish like that, as I just explained, doesn't need depth so much. To my mind, this fish doesn't really need a whole lot of swimming room either. It's definitely not one of those kind of fish. So you don't need a huge amount of space for it. The only concern is understanding bioload and knowing how to keep your aquarium clean. So if you got a small aquarium, he is a fairly large fish, so he may not be cramped as far as his needs, but the water conditions may foul quicker than you think, because he again gets to be a fairly substantial fish. He's not only fairly long, they get about 5 inches long. He's round, he's meaty. I would say he's probably more than 1 inch in diameter at his midsection, probably pushing 2 inches in diameter at his midsection. So if there's any other information I missed or any other questions anybody has, by all means let me know and I'll do my best to answer them for you. I did promise this video to somebody. I honestly can't even remember who I promised it to anymore. I apologize. I promised so many people so many videos, I just lose track of them. So sorry this one took so long getting out there, and I hope this helped if you are interested in getting this type of fish. And when you see it up close and personal, if you get it under some decent lighting, it really does have remarkable coloring in it. They're all earth tones, they're all golds and coppers and browns and things like that. But it's not a drab fish. It's not dull or boring to look at by any means. I don't really know how well this is going to come across on your end, but don't let it fool you if that does not look like that's a really striking fish, because it sure is. And that's a nice little way to wrap it up for us. He's going to give us a little profile view. That gives you a little better idea of his girth. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was helpful. As always, I'd ask you to please like my videos, please subscribe to my channel. And as always, I would say thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed.